Welcome, everyone. Today we're going to cover two important administrative tasks: statusing a group and making outreach calls to clients. These processes are essential for ensuring compliance, maintaining accurate records, and keeping clients engaged in treatment. While these tasks may seem straightforward, they play a crucial role in ethical billing practices, preventing fraud, waste, and abuse, and ultimately ensuring that our clients receive the highest quality of care. Accurate documentation is more than just a formality. It's a legal and ethical responsibility that protects both our organization and the clients that we serve. If a group is not statused correctly, it can lead to billing errors, missing documentation, or even disruptions in a client's treatment plan. Similarly, outreach calls can help bridge the gap when clients miss sessions, giving them the opportunity to re engage and preventing unnecessary discharges. Throughout this training, we're going to discuss how to properly status a group, how to handle common documentation issues like double scheduling and break time deductions, and how to conduct effective outreach calls when clients are at risk of disengagement. One of the most important aspects of documentation is ensuring that each client's attendance is accurately recorded. This not only affects billing and compliance, but also plays a vital role in treatment tracking. When a client's attendance is incorrectly marked, it can result in improper billing, either overbilling for the time they did not attend or underbilling for services provided. Both scenarios can lead to compliance violations and audit risks. Proper statusing ensures that we remain in alignment with insurance requirements and ethical billing standards, which protects our organization and upholds the integrity of our work. You should status your group immediately after it's over. More on this later when we talk about follow up calls, but ultimately by the end of the business day. This goes for all appointments on your schedule too, not just groups. Each client on the roster must be marked with the appropriate attendance status. The available options are kept, which means that the client attended the session as scheduled. CBC means canceled by client. The client informed us in advance that they would not be attending. DNS stands for did not show. The client was scheduled but did not show up and also didn't notify us that they weren't coming. Error is the client was incorrectly scheduled and should not have been on the roster. Not scheduled is used for when a client was rostered for both in person and telehealth sessions of the same group, but only attended one format. So instead of marking them as DNS or CBC for the format that they didn't attend, we mark them as not scheduled to reflect that they were only intended to participate in one session, not two. And this last one is canceled by therapist, which you won't really see too often since we do our best to make sure that pre scheduled services aren't being canceled. For an individual session, you might see it like if you scheduled an individual for Tuesday, but Monday you came down with the flu and needed your schedule cleared. CBT is how we would account for this. An example of using it in group is maybe a client showed up for a scheduled group, but for whatever reason, the therapist did not permit entry to the group. Maybe they came too late, maybe they were intoxicated. We wouldn't use CBC or DNS for that because they were there. They did make the attempt to come, but the therapist decided that it was the best idea for them not to join. So that's a CBT. And you might notice that there are usually multiple groups on a schedule happening at the same time: in person, telehealth, Cigna telehealth. This helps us keep everything clean for billing purposes since different ways of attending and different insurances impact how we bill. You do have to status every group on your schedule. Handling double scheduling is an important part of ensuring that clients are not counted twice or mistakenly marked as absent when they were in fact present for one version of the session. So, for example, if John Doe was scheduled for in-person and telehealth group at 5:30 and he attended the telehealth session but not the in-person one, he should be marked as kept for telehealth and not scheduled for in-person. And this distinction prevents us from incorrectly logging his absence for the in person session while still accurately reflecting his participation in the telehealth group. And another critical component of statusing a group is ensuring that documented time reflects actual client participation. By default, a 10-minute break is built into every group session. This is why intensive outpatient groups are scheduled for 3 hours and 10 minutes. So, for example, 5:30 to 8:40 or 9:30 to 12:40. While the full duration is blocked off in the schedule, only 3 hours of billable time is expected, with the extra 10 minutes being non billable. Even though the break time is already factored into the schedule, it still needs to be accounted for when statusing the group. If a client attended the full session, including the designated break time, they're still marked as kept, but we must ensure that the documented session length reflects the correct billable time. However, if the break lasted longer than 10 minutes, or if a client stepped out for an extended period of time, such as taking a 20-minute phone call or leaving the room for personal reasons, we need to deduct that additional time from the billable session length. Being in the building does not mean a client was participating in treatment, and insurance can only be billed for the time that the client was actively engaged in group. Failure to adjust for non billable time can have serious legal and ethical implications. Billing for time that the client was not actually present, even unintentionally, can be classified as fraudulent billing if discovered by an audit. Regulatory agencies and insurance providers routinely conduct audits to ensure compliance, and discrepancies in session documentation can lead to recouped payments, fines, or even loss of contracts. To prevent these risks, it's essential to ensure that every minute billed is accurately documented and break times or client absences are accounted for. If there's ever uncertainty about how to status a session or adjust for breaks, it's always best to consult a supervisor to ensure compliance with billing regulations. So, in addition to accurately statusing a group, outreach calls play an essential role in maintaining client engagement and preventing unnecessary discharges. When clients miss sessions, either a CBC or a DNS, proactive outreach allows us to identify barriers, attendance, offer support, and help them re engage in treatment before they fall too far behind. So, right after you status a group, you're going to do an outreach call. Outreach calls should be made in the following situations: when a client is marked as did not show DNS. If a client misses a session without notifying us, they should receive an outreach call within 24 hours to check in and offer support. Ideally, this is going to happen right after the group ends, or if time allows, during the break. Sometimes a client may still have time to join the second half of the session, and if the group has a virtual option, they might even be able to jump in immediately and still participate. You would also want to call when a client's attendance is declining. So, if a client's missed multiple sessions in a row, or if their participation has become inconsistent, a check in can help prevent them from dropping out entirely. Sometimes a simple call reminds them that they're part of a supportive community and that their presence is valued. And we also want to consider when a client is at risk of noncompliance. If a client's attendance pattern suggests that they may not be meeting treatment requirements, an outreach call can serve as a gentle accountability check. It reinforces their treatment goals, reminds them of their commitment, and helps address any barriers that might be keeping them from attending. So, anytime a client cancels or no shows, we want to make documentation on the schedule of when they were expected to be there, that we tried to outreach to them. So, think of it this way: if a staff member just didn't show up for work one day without calling off, we wouldn't just ignore it and move on. We'd reach out, check in, and ask if everything was okay. The same applies to a family member who suddenly just doesn't show up for a scheduled dinner. Our first instinct would be concern. We would ask, "Hey, where are you? Is everything okay?" Because we notice their absence and we care about their well being. The same principle applies to our clients. They're expected to be here, and when they don't show, we extend the same care. A simple, "Hey, we missed you today. How are you doing?" can go a long way in keeping somebody engaged in their treatment. So, when making an outreach call, it's important to use supportive, non judgmental tone. A good opening line might be like, "Hey, I noticed you weren't able to make it to group today. I wanted to check in, see how things are going. Is everything okay?" And the goal of this call is to address any barriers to attendance and help the client find solutions. Some common issues might include transportation problems, scheduling conflicts, or lack of motivation. If a client's struggling, we want to help explore alternative options such as rescheduling, adjusting their group time or format, or addressing any concerns that they might have about treatment. You want to make sure to offer the Friday makeup group for them to attend and make sure that they know how to log into Zoom. And after the call, it's essential to document that outreach attempt. If it's not documented, it didn't happen. And this includes noting the date and time of the call, whether the client was reached or if a voicemail was left, and any concerns or next steps discussed. If a client is unresponsive after multiple outreach attempts, this should be escalated to the treatment team for further follow up. Statusing a group and conducting outreach calls are the essential tasks that ensure compliance, ethical billing, and client engagement. By accurately tracking attendance, adjusting for non billable time, and making outreach efforts when needed, we uphold the integrity of our work and provide the best possible care to our clients. If you ever have questions or concerns about how to status a session, document time correctly, or conduct an outreach call, do not hesitate to reach out to a supervisor for guidance. Thanks for all your attention and time and your dedication to providing ethical and effective care to our clients.